Welcome to the First Responders Wealth Network. Our mission is to help all first responders change their mindset towards money and educate how to build long-term wealth through real estate investing. Are you ready?
All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast. I got my man Seth Ferguson here. He's putting on an amazing event, Multifamily Conference event, and we'll talk about that. But first off, nice to have you on the show, man, and finally connect.
Yeah, I've been watching what you've been doing for a while, so it's actually awesome to chat with you face to face.
It's amazing, this, quote unquote, real estate investing community. Everyone's pretty tight. Everyone's kind of watching people from afar, but what I really enjoy is connecting with people and then seeing them a couple of years down the road and see how much they've grown, and everyone's, growing along their own journey, but which is kind of the theme of what we're saying we want to talk about today, is just more or less the transition and kind of the mindset of a lot of people think multifamily. I mean, it can be 2 to 4, or it can be 100 or 300 units, So why don't you just first off introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of go down how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Seth Ferguson. I'm a 14-year now real estate veteran. I've been involved in many different aspects in real estate. And you might have seen me on YouTube. You might have seen me on my cable TV show, or now with the Multifamily Conference, that's basically everywhere. So you've probably seen my face at some point.
Nice. So what's the TV show? And maybe let people know what that's all about.
Yeah, so it's a cable TV show in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, and it's called Real Estate Simplified. And that show's a general interest type of show. So we'll cover everything from like buying and selling a house to commercial development to investing to like anything related to real estate. And the idea is, we bring in some good experts and have some really worthwhile discussions to cut through the noise that you typically see in like, the newspaper and stuff like that. We actually want to give people solid advice, right from the horse's mouth.
I mean, it's great to have a lot of people on. I mean, just like any podcast, you have a lot of experts come on and people who have lots of experience or whatever. And it's so easy to get distracted with so many directions and strategies and that sort of thing. So it's so beneficial to like share so much information, but at the same time, people sometimes get lost and they get that analysis paralysis and they never actually get started.
That's huge. Like, if only I could go back in time. Like one of the big things I always talk about is like I call it your decade vision. So like, you want to be in 10 years. And I think that kind of gives you the roadmap that you can use. If you see a new opportunity, you can actually look back at your roadmap. Okay, is it going to move me closer to my goal, or is it going to move me like farther away? And you can use that as a sounding board. I didn't have that when I first started. I ended up getting these assets that were actually taking me farther away from where I should have been going. So and investors are, shiny object syndrome. There's always the next cool thing we want to do. Roadmap though, like it can keep you like on the right track, so you don't get kind of taken off in either direction.
Cool. Well, we'll share your story. How did you start, or where did you start?
Oh boy, this is going back in the day before real estate was even in the picture.
Yeah.
I was trying to make the NHL as a hockey referee. So working a bunch of different leagues in the US and living the dream, traveling a lot, living on the road. But then I needed a real job. I saw the guys continuing to live the dream after their window had closed.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want to be like that. And I figured, hey, listen, like real estate agents, they set their own schedule, it's pretty easy. So I got my real estate license and I thought I could still continue hockey and do that. I was so wrong. It had a lot of work to set up a real estate business. I worked in brokerage. I was making what most people would consider really good money, but I had the lifestyle too. So I had a really fancy car. I had a bedroom house, and it was just me. And I wasn't making decisions that I would make now. And at the end of the day, a lot of money was coming in, but it was going out just as fast. I realized that I needed to do something. And that's when I realized that, hey, I'm buying and selling this product on a daily basis. I should start buying it and start having something left over, build a portfolio. So then I got started in the single family homes. It was good, except as I found out, it was actually taking me farther away from where I should have been going. And that's where multifamily comes into the picture. I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, we will. I want to go back just because I'm curious, because like I said, this is the first time we've connected face to face other than like DMs and stuff. But where do you currently live now or reside?
Yeah, I'm in the GTA. I live in Milton, which is like 40 minutes west of Toronto.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've seen my little town go from 30,000 people to 150.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
I'm very familiar with Milton, and it's just gone. I mean, the new builds is ridiculous. I think Mattamy pretty much owns that town, but
pretty much, yeah.
It's crazy. And then where were you refereeing? Like what leagues?
What leagues didn't I work?
Yeah.
Like when I was down in the States, like it was like the IHL was still around.
Yeah.
I was working like the USHL, the NAHL, like there were a whole bunch. And then I came back to Ontario, worked the OHL for 9 years.
Cool.
Doing some of the other leagues like the IHL and stuff. But yeah, so I had a good run, worked a bunch of national champion, like Allen Cup, RBC Cup and stuff. But my window closed. I did not make the next step. Lots of buddies though, like I turn on the TV and like recognize a lot of the guys who I work with. So that's pretty cool when you turn on the Leafs game and it's like, hey, I know 3 of those guys.
Well, I mean, I could only imagine that that's a tough hole to peg through because I mean, there's such a limited amount of refereeing, especially to make it to that top level like the NHL. I mean, because a lot of those guys are staying there for a long time, right? So
yeah. There's only like a couple spots every year that open up.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like that would have been my dream to do that.
Yeah.
I'm still fortunate. Like I got to levels of hockey that only a small fraction of people ever get to. You're sharing ice with like Taylor Hall, like Connor McDavid, like Max Domi. Like you're on the ice seeing these guys pull off ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I was spoiled. So like as much as I would have loved to move on, like it's pretty cool with how far I got. Yeah.
Some good stories for sure. And watching those guys develop. I mean, it's
crazy.
Oh yeah. Cool. All right. Now back to what we should be talking about. Let's go back to the real estate thing. I just always enjoy a good hockey talk now and then, but all right, cool. So you did the single family thing and then obviously you transitioned into multifamily. So was it like duplexes, triplexes, or did you just jump right into the apartment side of things?
Yeah. So like with the single family stuff, and it kind of goes back to, I blame my son when he was born.
Like, can't blame somebody.
So we, my partner at the time and we had these single family homes. Like we had a duplex, we had condo, detached, all that stuff. And I was cash flow rich, but equity rich, cash flow poor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so hard to like get another like loan to get the next property. It was so tough. Even though I had like the good income and all that, it was next to impossible. And then when my son was born, I was like, you know what? Like I remember holding him in my arms, like it was a life-changing moment. I'm like, oh, I got to do more. And then I realized, so I sat down and I did that decade vision exercise that I should have done like years before. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what? Like for me to hit my goal, I would have to own 1,000 houses. And then I'm like, listen, like I have a hard enough time doing what I'm doing now. How can I own 1,000 houses? And it's impossible. Like it's great, like 1,000 tax bills, 1,000 roofs.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like this isn't working. The most amount of money I've ever made has been with the properties I own. Like, how can I do this, but on a much larger scale? So I looked at industrial, office space, retail, multifamily, and multifamily made a whole lot of sense. Like, I looked at how it performed in economic downturns, rock solid. I looked at, the value add, like the types of loans you can get, the business plans. Mm-hmm. It just made a whole lot of sense. I've got lots of friends who crush it in like industrial and stuff. Not saying you can't make money, but for me, it was just a really good fit. So then I decided to make the switch. And first I had to educate myself. You have to, build your list and your following. And then, you can slowly work that way. And like I wouldn't go back. And, if I could go back in time now, like I would start doing multifamily from the get-go. It's just so many benefits.
Yeah. No, I mean, and the people who I do know that are doing it, I mean, like you said, there's no turning back. I haven't met very many people, if any, actually, who get into the apartment space or the large multifamily and then like turn to single family or, even residential stuff. It's just a whole nother beast that I find obviously difficult, but it's like anything, you can learn and do it. But the scalability and the loans availability, the value add side, like the write-offs, depreciation, like there's just so many benefits to it. Everything's under one roof, depending on how many doors you have, obviously. So how did that learning process happen? Like, where did you get your first, just in a quick, 60-second summary?
Yeah. So you know what? The very first thing I did was I started a podcast, believe it or not.
Perfect.
And it's like, you know what? I need to learn from some pretty smart people. Nobody likes the person who's like, hey, can I pick your brain? That's fair. So it's like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to talk with these people. And like, it's funny how everything comes full circle because, some of the people who I had on my podcast, I built a relationship with them over time. So when I'm running the conference, I pick up the phone. Hey, you want to come speak on stage at my conference? Like that never would have happened if I didn't run the podcast. So I'm sure like you've had similar experiences in it. Yeah.
Buddy, this podcast, like you connecting people like you, I mean, like you hit it right on the head. Where else could you get someone in front of you for a half hour to 45 minutes and like pick their brain and ask them questions? That this whole journey has been a learning experience. And that's how I started off too. Just, I wanted to educate myself and share as time went on. So things just evolved, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's step number one. And then obviously you have to do a whole lot of learning too, right? You got to look at hundreds of deals and like under them and just understand, what's going on. You got to look at your markets, focus on specific markets and know everything about that market. You want to know what's driving it, what's coming up. How did it perform over the past recessions? How many units are coming online? What's the forecast for the next 10 years? Like you have to go deep, but like, just to touch on a point you made, like a lot of people stay with multifamily, but they don't start with multifamily because I don't think there's enough exposure out there for it. And that's one of the reasons why I started the conference. Like, I'm not sure if you were the same way, but I used to drive by an apartment building and just assume it was owned by either a super loaded rich guy or a life insurance company or something like that. I didn't realize that regular people could actually own apartment buildings. I was totally ignorant. So like one of the reasons why I started the conference is to actually give multifamily and all the benefits, the exposure it needs. Because, you look at it this way, if you're a brand new real estate investor, you could do like a duplex conversion, manage it yourself, probably make a whole ton of mistakes. I would argue that a multifamily building is probably a safer investment for a beginner because you have more leeway in terms of your expense ratio, you have better cash flow, you can afford to have full-time management. So you have somebody with you managing it and you can learn. Like a lot of people are like, oh, multifamily is too big. I don't want to get into it. I just want to start small. I don't know. After seeing both sides of the fence, that multifamily is a safer way to go than like a single family home, duplex or triplex. That's just my opinion, but I've been around a little bit and I would definitely go multifamily if you're a beginner for sure.
Interesting. Well, you brought up your conference, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So when's that being held? I'll get this out right away, by the way, but when is the conference? Who's going to be speaking? And then what are you going to be touching on there?
Yeah, so it's coming up pretty quick by the time you're listening to this. So it's May 14th and 15th, this Saturday and Sunday in Toronto. We've got people flying in from all over Canada and the US. So we're like 15 minutes away from the airport. But yeah, the speakers, I'm thrilled about the lineup.
A great lineup.
Oh, yeah, I'm so thrilled. Like Kevin O'Leary's coming in. I'm actually talking again with Kevin on Friday to go over his presentation. But he's going to be talking about what investors expect from you, how to improve your pitch. Because if you're raising money, there's other people who want to take your investors' money and put it in their own deals. So we outpitch our competition, the nature of capital, how it flows. This is a guy who's seen thousands of pitches. Like I'm actually really interested to see what he says. Then we've got Joe Fairless. He's almost at $2 billion.
That guy's a gangster.
Assets. Yeah. He's a beast. Great friend of mine. And so I call him up and he's bringing his family up to Toronto and he's talking about how to build a team to scale. That's, going from his first deal to 2 billion now. That's going to be really cool. We got Pierre Paul Turgeon talking about underwriting. Pierre Paul used to work at CMHC in their family underwriting department. So he's going to be going deep into underwriting. But yeah, we got development covered, financing, deal structuring, like Joel Block's coming to talk about syndications and funds and how you can use that to leverage up. Like every single aspect's covered, I'm absolutely thrilled. Like, and this isn't me blowing smoke. Like, I would put our speaker roster against any other conference any day of the week.
And it sounds like you really thought out, let's just get some speakers and talk about whatever. Like you're literally breaking down the systems that it sounds like that someone would need to understand the ins and the outs of what it takes to do a deal.
Oh yeah, like I handpicked everybody and I wanted to make sure we covered every component of it. Because like my personal pet peeve at events is like it just becomes a generic vanilla event and you just get a whole bunch of people everywhere.
Yeah.
That rubs me the wrong way and I don't get a lot out of it. So like with this conference, I'm like, you know what? We're going to focus specifically on apartments. And I want to bring in the best people for each segment of multifamily and just go deep on it. And that's what we've done. Like it's going to be awesome.
What's that book that Joe Fairless came out with? It's like super crazy thick book. It was like, I don't know, the Bible of multifamily or something crazy. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head. It came out a number of years ago, but
he's up to like, I think 5 or 6 books now.
Yeah, oh, is he? Okay. Well,
it
shows you how long it's been. But anyway, I remember he talked about it and it's like, you know, a massive encyclopedia of like front to back. It's like 1,000 pages or something crazy, but he's just a bank full of knowledge really. So, and I know he does, you know, mad volume and
huge.
So
yeah,
very familiar with that name.
So like if you're in like this event, like if you're a beginner and you're looking to get into multifamily, like what better way to get the right foundation in each component, right? Like I learned from the best about financing, about like scaling, how to raise capital, how to structure it. You're going to come out of the 2 days with like probably the best starting point you can get. But then like if you're an experienced investor in multifamily, like the theme is all about scale. So how do we take what you're doing now and, you know, 10x it? Or is it launching your first fund? Is it moving from joint ventures to syndication? You know, how do we get more investors into your database? So, you know, whether you're brand new or experienced, like you're going to get some really quality content, connections. Like we're back in person, like, you know.
Well, that's a whole nother celebration in itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I hate Zoom with a passion after a couple of years. Like I'm ready to get back face to face with people.
Yeah, I was down at an event last year when things were still kind of squirrely up here. And man, it was just like such a good feeling, like shaking hands and connecting with people and like actually networking. And that's the other thing that I should definitely mention. Especially if you guys haven't been to a conference or, you know, you kind of roll your eyes at conference. It's not like a rah kind of event here. Like this is like legit systems, knowledge, systems and procedures, like some badass investors coming in and telling you the way it is. And at the very least, if you leave and at least have a basic understanding of what even multifamily and, you know, how to put together a deal of that size, like if you can walk away with just like the basic knowledge, I mean, it is worth your time and money to go.
100%. Like where else can you learn from somebody who's at $2 billion? Like totally. That like the nuggets this guy's going to be throwing out is just real. Unless, hey, if you've got a $5 billion portfolio, don't come. But like $2 billion, like you're going to learn something for sure.
There's always things to learn. And you'd be surprised. Those people who are like way surpass the people that maybe even presenting, which in this case, I doubt it, but the networking alone and the meeting the people. And like, there's a lot of people that go to these events that are literally could be your money partner. You know, if you want to go and you want to meet people who are just like, listen, I don't want to do this, but I have some capital and I want to invest with people who are doing this. Right.
Yeah. Like I do a lot of like calls with some of the investors that are coming, like the more established ones. We've got somebody, no joke, like they've got 10 million to place.
Wow.
And they're going to be chatting with people. We've got a $350 million portfolio. I had that call like 2 weeks ago, like a ton of people over 100 million in the VIP section. So like the quality of people is definitely there for sure.
I mean, if you're just starting out, I'm not saying you have to go VIP, but but however, I've had the most value in those type of seatings, like the VIP or paying you're like, I'm going to pay what to sit there, but it blows my mind. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. So
every conference I go to, I always get the top tier because like the only people buying it are the serious people you want to meet anyway.
Totally.
But like for us, like we're over 80% sold out VIP. I think we only have like 30 tickets left. So cool. It's selling out. Yeah.
So before we forget, how can people get tickets? And I'll leave the information on the show notes as well. So just, go in there, you can tap on the link or whatever, but how do people find tickets?
Yeah, for sure. You just go to multifamilyconference.ca and use code 911, and we've got a special 10% off discount code for you. So yeah, multifamilyconference.ca, you'll see the full agenda, the full speaker roster, and you can select your tickets. We've got 4 different options for you, depending on what you want to get out of the conference.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate that. Cool. Well, so to my listeners, new investors, people just starting, or maybe even want to transition into, multifamily that might be apprehensive. What is your suggestion for those type of newbies?
Yeah, this is going to sound pretty cliche, but it's so true. There is never a perfect time. You just have to do it today. Like if you're waiting to do your first deal, like I talk to people all the time, and then I see them a year later, they still haven't done anything. Today's the day. You'll figure it out as you go. If experience and looking to make the switch over to multifamily, today's the day. You'll figure it out as you go. Just take some action and make things happen.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. I value your time. I know you're probably going 100 miles an hour every second of the day, and I apologize about yesterday, but I'm glad to finally get you on here. And I'm excited to get this out as soon as I can, just so people become aware of this kind of stuff, because the more you can learn, the better you're going to be. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome, man. All right, take care.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review on iTunes. Also, check out our website at 911wealthnetwork.com or contact Dave directly at 911wealthnetwork.com. Stay safe out there.